Is it time for you to step down from being the co-chair of your network? Are you worried that everything's going to fall apart if you step away? Are you worried that you're only known for running the network and you fear that actually when you try to step back on your career track and get that promotion, that it's not going to be forthwith? That is what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to be covering how you identify and start that smooth transition to your successor, how you get the support and the sponsorship that you need to make your next career move happen. So this is ERG Strategy, the channel that gives you tools, techniques, tips, strategy and advice to run effective, engaged employee networks that really make a difference in organizations. So hopefully that's what you're here for. You're in the right place. Please do subscribe, share it with colleagues that maybe need to see this as well. New videos every week, mainly every Tuesday, although I'm a little bit tardy this week. And I also go live every Friday morning here on YouTube, but mainly actually if you want to get into the comments on LinkedIn. So that is where you can find me every Friday morning, 8:30 UK time. So let's get into this. I'm recording a series of 3 videos, really just inspired by the conversations that I'm having all the time. I speak to a lot of ERG leads. In fact, sometimes I mix up who I'm having conversations with, but these 3 themes keep coming up a lot. So this first theme is people that are stepping down or have stepped down and they're trying to figure out their next move. This comes up like a lot. You wouldn't believe how much. And then the other topics I'm going to be talking about is culture. So how culture is now almost like being used as this the new term for DI, the new term for inclusion. What does that mean for networks? And then finally, I'm going to talk about networks in organizations that are going through massive change and what is the role of the networks. So let me start with life after leadership, right? Life after ERG leadership. Before you even get to that stage, if you're worried about, oh my gosh, there's nobody to hand over to, it's all going to be a little bit of a mess, etc. Let's just talk about the succession bit first. Succession, one of my very favourite series, but we digress. In terms of succession, I did a whole video on what to look for in a leader, and I covered there the kind of like traits and behaviours that you should be looking for in a successor. But what I want to do as well, I want you to really think about the activities that only you as a co-chair are doing. So what are the things that only you are doing? Spend like even, pause this video and write it down for like 5 minutes. Just write down what are the things that you are doing for this network that only you are doing. Because actually what I hope you will come up with is a list of things where you can potentially start to delegate 1 or 2 things out, or you can start to get somebody to shadow. So on that list, for example, you might have things like, that you attend particular meetings with a stakeholder. It could be attending meetings with HR, with the people and culture team, with other departments within the business, for example. It might be, identifying which policies you want to review. It might be designing the member survey. Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. I know that particularly if you have started if you're the person that has started this network, i.e. you were the founder, I know that list is probably really long because founders typically are doing a lot, a bit like a startup business. You're probably doing a lot and you actually probably don't have many committee members. So what I'm sort of telling you that you need to write down what you're doing and potentially find committee members that you can delegate some of these things to see kind of like who's got what it takes and who will, be able to figure out kind of managing their time to take on these extra responsibilities. If you are a founder and you don't really have a strong committee structure, or if you've just got like a committee of like millions of people that aren't doing much, this is a lot more common, I think, than I realise. So if you've got committees of lots of people, but nobody's really doing anything, or people aren't really engaged, and you're struggling to find somebody that you can delegate things down to, then you've got to look a little bit more wider in your sort of pool of members. So who are the members that are like constantly showing up to events, are kind of like coming up with ideas, or seem as though they want to get involved in things? Maybe those are some of the individuals that you need to start bringing in to some of the activities. That's the first thing. Don't keep all of the activities to yourself. Start delegating out some of those things. And also in terms of timescales. So secondly, let me talk about timescales. This shouldn't be, in terms of succession and kind of like leaving the network, it shouldn't be this whole thing of like literally you've thought about it and in 2 months' time, you're going to step back. No, no, no. It's got to be like you got to give yourself a longer window. I would say as an ideal, 6 to 12 months is when you should be you should start thinking about succession. 12 months is great. 6 months as a minimum is when you should start thinking about who that potential next person is going to be. I know that different organizations have different processes. So I know that some have like a proper application process that's run by the D&I team or the people and culture team. Others have like a nominating and voting process. I'm not really so keen on voting processes. I'm just going to put it out there. But depending on what that process is, but what you can help to do by doing this delegation, you're helping those individuals that might be suitable feel ready to put their hat in the ring when it comes up, right? So when that opportunity arises. So that's the first thing in terms of succession, to kind of make like a smooth transition. I then want to talk about, and this is something that somebody literally said to me this week, but it's a really common issue. It's sometimes as network leaders, you only get known for running the network. Like you just only get known for ERG stuff. So what does that mean in terms of what you do afterwards? Well, because you've got a couple of options. I know some ERG leads, they actually like to stay involved in the networks. They sometimes get involved in a different network, either as lead. So sometimes they go from being co-chair of one network to being co-chair of a different one that kind of aligns with identity, or maybe they join as an ally, as a co-chair, right? So there are those options. You could sometimes potentially join as a committee member. What I don't encourage, and I've seen this at one or two organisations, I don't encourage the co-chair of a network to then become a committee member of that network. I'm not a fan, and I'll tell you why. Because it's very, very hard to actually step back from taking the reins, and it makes it harder for the people that have then started as co-chair to step up, right? So it just doesn't work. I haven't seen it work well at all. I remain, kind of happy to be proven wrong, but I haven't seen it work well yet. What I have seen work quite well is, for example, if there is a co-chair of a regional chapter or a particular country ERG, for example, they then step into the global role. Absolutely, that can work. I've absolutely seen that, and I think that works well. So I think you do need to think about, if you've got this issue around, oh my gosh, I'm only known for doing ERG stuff, then in terms of your next role afterwards, particularly if you're wanting to lean into your career, so lean into your technical expertise or your functional discipline, then you probably need to step away from networks altogether. Obviously, you can support what they're doing from the sideline, you can still be a member, etc., but you probably need to step away from the leadership completely if you want to be known for something else, right? Particularly if you're angling maybe for a promotion and it has nothing to do with, like inclusion or kind of like anything in that space. You do need to, so in terms of, I'm going to now go through 3 specific steps about your kind of like next move. If you're thinking about a career move, you need to get really clear on what it is you want next. And I know that for a lot of ERG co-chairs in particular, I see a lot of them go through this real sort of like wrestle. I can only call it a wrestle. They're at this crossroads of, do I lean into the inclusion space, in the people space? Do I take on a DEI role? And I know co-chairs that have been offered that, offered a role, and co-chairs that have wanted that role. And then they're kind of like, oh, do I just lean into my, my technical area? And it could be that their technical area might be finance, there might be an accountant, or it might be commercial, or it might be law, or it might be something operationally within the business. And so the first thing is that they have this real crossroads moment. You've got to get some clarity over what it is that you want to do. And there's various ways to get that. It could be through conversations with various people that are maybe doing different roles. The one that I actually quite like is sometimes you just need a little bit of reflection time. So it could be that you maybe wait until you've stepped down from the network. You maybe take a little bit of a break from it altogether. You're then now sort of like leaning back into your role, and you just get that headspace to get that thinking. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can tap into, what your purpose is, what your strengths are, all of that stuff. And maybe I'll do a whole nother video on that, because there are like lots of different things that you can do. But maybe the one that I'll maybe just bring up just for today, I think it was either Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, and I can't remember which one it was, said something like, if you think about what you enjoyed doing as a teenager, that tends to give you an idea of what your strengths are, and if you were really well aligned, what you would want to do. So I would say maybe have a little bit of a think about that, because the first thing really is get really clear on your career goals, right? What are the career goals and aspirations that you've got that you want to now fulfill in terms of your life after being an ERG co-chair? Once you've got that, the second thing that I want you to do is to find the right sponsor. So once you've got clear about your career goals, and particularly if you're thinking of potentially moving directorate, so if you're going to move kind of sideways or diagonally, as in you want to go up the ladder, but you want to go sideways into a next directorate, you potentially want to find a sponsor, which may well be the executive director of that area that you're trying to get into. So finding a sponsor is really key, and it could actually be multiple sponsors, right? A little bit like the kind of the strategies that you used to employ when you were like a network lead. You need to start thinking about those, but for your career. So it might be that you find one or two individuals that you want to operate as sponsors, and you're going to have conversations with them about, kind of like getting advice on your next career move and how to do that, how to position yourself as ready for that next career move, and getting advice and guidance on what the journey to that, kind of end destination looks like as well. In terms of how to get a sponsor, again, maybe I'll do a whole nother video on that piece. The whole career piece is it's such a big topic. But when it comes to getting and finding that sponsor, you don't need to have that awkward conversation of, will you be my sponsor? You can literally just reach out to somebody and say, look, I'm coming towards stepping down from the network. I'm really thinking about my next career move. Can we grab coffee for half an hour so I can pick your brains? And that is it, right? You don't need to kind of go to them and say, can you be my sponsor? Can you help me do X, Y, and Z? Just say, can we grab a coffee? Can I pick your brains, or can I bounce some ideas off you about my career? And that's it, right? And then once you have that conversation, what I would say in terms of leveraging that sponsor, because one of the best ways to have an effective sponsor relationship is that they have visibility of what you're doing. So, be really clear about what you want to get out of that meeting. You want to get some advice from them, but also if they really are the sponsor whose directorate you want to end up working in, you want to ask them if they've got any project opportunities or any projects that they're aware of, or secondments or development opportunities coming up that you can potentially get involved in, right? Because that's a really good way of them getting visibility of what you are good at. So that is what I would absolutely say is that one of the outcomes potentially of having a sponsor. You want to get some experience on a project or a strategic initiative that they are actively sponsoring, so that they get visibility of you and can start to put you forward for, when that next promotion comes, how do you make sure they are putting you forward for that? And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about really in terms of positioning yourself for your next move is really starting to build those relationships. It is so important, building strategic relationships with, people like that sponsor, or people in other departments or other teams that you potentially want to work in. You want to kind of build this strategic network of people that are all singing your praises, all are really clear on what it is that you want to achieve in your career. And they are allies for you when you're not in the room. So when you're not in the room and promotions are being discussed, performance ratings are being discussed, bonuses are being discussed, all of that stuff, as I always sort of say, and I said it in my book, who is in the room speaking up for you? This is part of the reason it's so important to build these strategic relationships. And some of that starts, again, there's a whole strategy about that. Some of that starts literally from don't shoot the messenger, but, being in the office and being visible, right? You don't want to be forgotten, right? So going into the office, having conversations with people at the coffee machine, literally when you see them get up, get your elevator pitch ready and go and have a conversation with them, right? So building relationships, absolutely key in terms of your next move, especially if you want a promotion. If you don't want a promotion and actually you just want to get your head down and have a little bit of an easy life, once you've stepped down from the network, you don't need to do all of that stuff. But if you do want a meaningful role, and it's potentially a promotion or a step up or a step into something different, you really do need to take those steps to make sure that your next role is all set. And that's it for today. I hope that was really useful. If you want to share it with somebody else that maybe is also going through the same thing in terms of thinking of stepping down from their network, maybe somebody else in your organization, please do share this with them. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, so that you'll know when the next video is coming out. And that's it for today. Hopefully I will see you on Friday for the LinkedIn Live. Take care. Bye.